friends. This is the Be Real Babe podcast, a place where your average babes come together to talk about life stresses, messes, and successes. A place where being yourself is the ultimate goal, where your opinion, your story, and your individual experience matters. Join me, your host B, and my guests for real and raw talks every week, laying it all out there so we can all help each other learn more, grow deeper, and evolve collectively. Now keep in mind, as a disclaimer, no one here is an expert and no one is giving any advice. This is strictly our opinions, thoughts, feelings, and for entertainment purposes only. Now with that being said, it's time. So grab your drink, grab your joint, and let's jump right in. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Be Real Babe podcast. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for stopping by the show today. I hope that you have a good time. And if you're a returning listener, watcher, supporter, thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart for coming back time and time again. For those that don't know me, my name is Brandy. I'm the host of the show, and today, you guys, we're on episode 248, Being Real About 2025. Oh my gosh, you guys, we are on the final episode of 2025. What the fuck is actually going on? I cannot believe it. We've got a handful of episodes, and the season 10 is coming to an end just in a short month from now, and the next episode is going to be January 2nd. I am super shocked. I'm very excited to talk about 2025. This episode is going to be about the last two seasons. What was 2025 for the podcast? What was the 2025 in life? And then I got some articles here and some notes for things that happened in 2025, whether that's a little political, a little pop culture, and a little world event, kind of all things surrounding 2025. I do believe it is less traumatic than it was in 2020 and 2021. I went back to some playlists yesterday and I was like, oof, some of these songs are just, yep, this year wasn't as bad as 2021, 2020. So I must say 2025 was super entertaining, super successful for the show and for the YouTube channel. And I'm super excited to get into that and talk about what was going on in the world in 2025. But before I jump onto all of that, I just want to remind you, if you are listening on Apple, Spotify, or Rumble, to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and leave me a comment or review if you feel so kind. It helps me out so much. And if you're trying to find me on social media, you can find me on TikTok or Instagram at the Be Real Babe or the Be Real Babe podcast. And if you are interested in being in season 11, let me know. I'll be booking that in February to launch in March, early March, mid-March. We'll see where the season starts next one. I'm super excited, you guys, but I do need a break. It's been a lot going a whole year with 3 episodes a week, so I definitely need a bigger break than anticipated. But anyways, guys, let's get into 2025 and what happened on the podcast. Also, if you think I'm sitting weird, I have a ginger right here who decided to show up, so let's see how long he stays. So if you see a little redhead here, you know. So 2025 for me was amazing in a lot of different ways. It had its different challenges for sure. I'm not going to lie about that, but majority of it was way better than I ever anticipated. Especially when it came to the podcast and the show, because to be honest, taking on 3 episodes, doing all the research, having more guests this season was a little overwhelming at times, but I'm happy to say that I was able to complete 2 whole seasons and almost an entire year, because end of season 8 would have been in January. So that was my first year completely alone with doing season 7 and season 8, because Haley's last season was season 6. So that finished my full year by myself, where I was posting, I was still doing Keeping Up with Canada's and What in the Actual Internet, where I was sharing all the things that are now on YouTube only. So I completed my first year of doing that all together. But then I realized through that whole year that I didn't feel like I was having as much guests. And that's one thing I love to have. I love to have the conversations. And obviously I like to share some of my opinions on pop culture and the government and all that, but I felt like I was really missing out only being able to have 2. So then for this season, for this last year, I decided to move the Keeping Up with Canada has gone now to YouTube's on YouTube on Monday. I think I'm on the 17th week so far this week, doing Keeping Up with Canada on YouTube this season, starting in September. So there's 17 different weeks if you want to go back and catch up on some news and things that happened here in Canada. And then I also moved, it was called What in the Actual Internet, and I moved that to Internet Insanity, which is on Wednesdays on YouTube. As this airs, there would be the 17th also that has been published, so you can go back and watch, and that's just random internet stories that I find, whether that's true crime, whether that's a lot of it's been true crime and pedophiles lately, I'm not going to lie to you. But just random stuff I find on the internet. I've been talking about cruise ships, talk about pop culture, talk about random shit on TikTok, talk about Netflix documentaries, anything over there. I did the whole Diddy case, which I also put on the podcast, but did the whole Diddy case over there as well. So those are Wednesdays, which while I take a break from the podcast and the show, the podcast will then be uploaded to YouTube in that break. So those that listen on YouTube can watch the episodes there. If you don't have Spotify or Apple, you can watch the podcast there as well in end of January, beginning of and all of February. That will be happening on YouTube. And like I said, it's been insane doing them both, but now I've completed that first year. So the beginning of the end of season 8, we did there's just a handful because I started the season when I first started the podcast in March. It was March 1st, and I for myself really wanted to make sure that I had some breaks in between, and I always changed and I always evolved, and I really had no idea what I was doing. So it just made sense to do things in season so that, you can change templates and change a bunch of different things, be able to evolve it, because I knew I was just starting, and I didn't really always like changing stuff in the middle of the season. It just, I kind of wanted all of those changes to flow. So seasons made sense. And then 5 months and then taking a break for a month so you can get caught up is just because then if I'm late at the end of the season, which I have in this season, I'm still going to get a couple weeks off before having to record to get caught up again. We'll see where that lands. But, yeah, it's been fun being on YouTube. So now it's officially 1 year on YouTube. And thank you guys for watching the show over there. If you haven't gone over there to subscribe, like I said, make sure to do that, because on Mondays and Wednesdays, there are shows about, anywhere from 20 to 20 minutes to half an hour, maybe sometimes 45. But just talking about those kind of things a little bit lighter. So it's been really great this last season having more guests, but it has been a lot. So that's why this break might be a little bit longer. We'll see how it goes. It's really hard to, in the end of winter, you're just so unmotivated, but I think the break will make me feel motivated. I think those that are creatives will understand, when you're just depleted and you're just at the end of it. That's kind of where I'm at, where I just feel like massive anxiety, and then the holidays and all that too, right? And so that's why I was like, oh, this will be a good episode, no pressure, just going over the season and what happened in the years, because everyone's obviously busy in the holidays and your girl is burning out, but in all the best ways. So let's go over season. It would be the end of season 8, season 9, and season 10 of 2025. So 2025 consisted of episodes 207 to 248. So there's 41 episodes. I had 26 different guests. Now, some guests were returning guests, like Haley, obviously our OG Hale. She was on 3 times last year. Darian actually wins the cake. Girly was on 4 times in 2025. Holly G was on twice. We have our new girl Robin was on twice. Torva was on for 3, and Brie was on for 2. So a couple returning girlies, fan favorites. I love it. I love having my friends on and learning from them, and just sharing their stories and continuing on the inspiration to you guys. So also in 2025, I started the Botox series, which started March 28th. So those are episodes 214 to 216, 224 to 225, and 237, which, obviously was very big for me because I've had Gretchen on the show before. And I really wanted to make sure that those that got injured, their stories were heard, because a lot of the times in the comment section, I would get things, like I'm just a hater, or all those things, like these experiences don't exist. And, people will still deny their experiences. Obviously, that's how things roll, unfortunately. But at least with them on there saying their experiences, they backed me, they backed what I was saying and the advocacy that I've done. So people couldn't really say they didn't exist, because they do. So if you're interested in if you are interested in listening to 6 different stories on adverse Botox effects, make sure you go and listen to those episodes, and shoot me a message if you want to hear the ones with Gretchen and Fox. There's 3 other episodes about Botox from a acupuncturist, as well as a number 1 advocate for Botox injury. So let me know and I can send those to you. So that was huge having the girlies on. Really appreciate them. Always constantly praying for their healing and wishing that they're constantly going through their phoenix in the ashes moment and moving on from their injuries. But sometimes that's just not how it is. We all know that healing isn't linear, and I just really hope for them that they can heal in due time. And again, everyone can take warning and have a little bit more informed consent when it comes to Botox. So have a listen to that. We also had another amazing returning guest. A Ducky is what I call her. My girlfriend Courtney. We've been friends forever. If you've been on the show from the beginning, I think this has to be Courtney's like 10th or 11th episode. She's just kind of up there at the same height, same episode amount as Holly G, and friends for the same amount of time. And unfortunately, Courtney, around this time, not when this time when it airs, but as I'm recording, lost her husband a couple of years ago, unfortunately, just before Christmas. And she really wanted to speak about grief and how people, really don't talk about it. And of course, I want to host that conversation. It was absolutely beautiful. And it's really hard, but I think really good tips that people can take away to make sure that if something like this unfortunately ever happens to you, I know we don't want to think about it, but just some ways that you could potentially be prepared, and have conversations just, and I never you want to put it out there. Oh, we lost a ginger. I know we never want to put it out there, but it's also good. I'm a planner, so I always think it's good to be prepared and have these uncomfortable conversations, and have a listen to the episode with Courtney. It's 218, so you can maybe get some understanding as to why. And then Holly G came back on and talked about losing her father, because as she has mentioned and alluded to in some episodes, that she had lost her father a couple years ago. We had never really dove into grief and handling parent loss, so we talked about that in episode 227. We actually had two different conversations about topical steroid withdrawal. I keep saying we, me and the cats. Sorry, it's easier to say. We had two conversations, two episodes. We had an episode 209, being real with Sanit. Now her episode wasn't specifically about topical steroid withdrawal, but she did share her experience, which then inspired Adriana and her daughter Shamra to come onto the show, and their episode was 228, talking about their experience, because Shamra had been dealing with this since she was a couple-day-old baby, and she is now a full-grown, beautiful, engaged woman. And her and Adriana share what it was like to go through that as a mother-daughter, going, trying to fight their way through the medical system to advocate for themselves, and just the amount of gaslighting, but also the really beautiful healing and just happy life that they have now compared to, and being in a place to share it. So again, that was episode 228, and then Sanit's was 209. She was at the end of season 8 for Sanit there, and we talk about a bunch of stuff on Sanit's episode. I got in trouble on YouTube for that one. So one of season 9's biggest episodes was actually episode 220. It was about two nurses, Sophia and Lacey, that had left the traditional model of healthcare as nurses, and they went into a holistic health business, and how that health business was very poorly ran. Awful human being was doing awful things to not just these girls, a multiple amount of girls. It feels like it was like almost like an MLM cult type of thing, with this whole new like online persona where people can look like they're really put together, but on the back end they don't know what the fuck they're doing. So these girls, obviously, especially after COVID and all that, you're trying to find different alternatives and want to support in other ways. So these girls go out and they give everything to this woman, and she just fucks off. And I don't want to tell too much because I think you should listen to the story, but it was definitely one of the most listened to episodes of 2025. So episode 220, Lacey and Sophia, and the holistic business that they tried to work so hard to follow someone who seemed to have it all together and absolutely did not, and then the massive downfall of what happened after that. But again, Phoenix in the ashes, as always. They're obviously in better places doing better things, but I think this is a really important one, because not just in the holistic business side, but just small business in general, these things are very important for people to know before they go out and do those entrepreneurial things where you don't have support, and this is one area. So I also met my friend Jamie from TikTok this last year in 2025, and asked her to come on the show because she'd been speaking very vocally on TikTok about politics and all those kind of things. And she also has a vaccine injury. So I look like this because it's going to be hard to put that one on YouTube. I'm going to see if I can get in trouble now that the vaccines come with a black box warning, which would be super interesting to have her back on to see how she's doing. But we talked about what the pressures that she went through, working in a school and having to get the vaccine, and then being injured and being sick, and the isolation of COVID and all of that. So that was episode 217. And then she came back in the next season, and I had her on talking about politics in episode 235, going from left to right, because she has been known and always has known and claimed to be a liberal, and now she is very much conservative, and just the transition of politics. And then myself always kind of being more NDP liberal growing up in BC. I never really fully understood until I moved to Alberta, and then I became a conservative, obviously, and then moved back to BC and still remain conservative, as we can call it. But there is massive issues with government in its entirety, so I'm not really left, right. It's all fucked and it all needs fixing is where I'm at with that. And then Torva came up in 2025. One big win for me was meeting Torva in real life. If you guys don't know, we met on social media when her and her husband were speaking out about BC Cancer losing her referral and her nearly dying. So I immediately messaged them because they were speaking out and they want to talk about it, invite them on the show. They said absolutely. So I've had both Donovan and Torva on several times over the last couple years. Go back and especially starting in season 7, they've come on several times in different episodes. Give me a shout out if you want to know all of them. But Torva specifically came up to Kelowna because she is working on something else that will be TBD. We'll announce when it's time. But then she also got to come up and meet me and stay here and come back to Canada. Of course, it's always so scary when she's come back because almost every time she's been back, she's almost died. So this time she was able to go back. So hopefully Donovan will let her come back. But she came up here. We got to spend a week. And she also had a live event, what it was talking about her entire story of fleeing Canada and how she is a medical exile because she cannot live here where her daughter is, some of her family is, all of her friends, where she was growing a life with her husband and her daughter on the island and now can't be there because of the absolute bullshit that our healthcare is. If you guys have been around, Torva's story because I do not ever shy away about speaking about it. But anyway, so that event was super special. But she did come on talking about Canada versus US because, like, obviously me being born and raised Canadian and never really going to the States besides visiting, and then herself being born and raised in the States and then coming up here, living up here, and now being down there. I wanted to know what it was like, and all, we always hear Canada versus US. We're neither of those people. We're like Canada and US. We love each other, and just speaking about the differences of growing up there and all that kind of stuff and the crazy rhetoric. So that was a really fun episode. That was episode 226. And then we had her back on about mindset and manifesting and all those kind of things that for a long time I don't think anybody had any idea of, and now everyone's being more cognizant of mindset, gratitude, all that woo-woo shit that people talk about, and how actually important it is, and how that spirituality, that whether it's faith, religions, whatever that may be, that higher power, that inner love, that inner peace and inner self-care really does pay off. And then especially when you're going through something like cancer. So we go through that as she's been through up and down over the last couple of years with her cancer diagnosis, and putting it in or being in regression, then remission, and then coming in and out. So we talked about that because I think that's really important for those that are going through it. A lot seem to be. And then so that was episode 233, and then our live event was episode 242. So like I said, she did a live event here in Kelowna. So that is not only just that recording live of it, her answering the Instagram questions, then I also bring her back and we do a follow-up about her trip down here and all those kind of things, where she's at and all that jazz. So it's a beautiful catch-up episode with Torva, finishing off the year. And then I talk about my Hawaii trip for 246. Me and Grant went to Hawaii, if you guys didn't know, and I did a recap for that. And sorry, that's episode 245. 246 actually is with Riley, the Men's Mind Collective, and talking about the lack of groups out there to help men get together and help each other strive for more purpose, better lives, like holding each other accountable. And it was a really great conversation about the differences for genders, and such a positive conversation where we're both coming from different sides of the aisle. However, like, not in negativity that you see so much online where people are just fighting, and just being able to help each other, help the other gender understand a little bit more, and where we can support each other and where we could be better, where they could be better, and I think that needs to happen more and more. So I really think go listening to 246, a great episode. Another big one for me is I've been fangirling over Grill Girl Robin for the last little while because she had spoken out about Botox. So then I reached out to her and asked her if she ever want to come on the show. She said yes. So excited because she's a bundle of joy. And then she came on 2 episodes, one talking about soul fracturing, not even talking about Girl and the way that she and her success in her business, but we talk about what led up to that, going through that, and the pressure she put on herself. So that's an amazing episode. And that episode is 238, when we talk about soul fracturing and how she started Grill Girl and how that all happened back in the day, we'll say. And then in 243, we talk about parasite cleansing. And the one reason why I want to talk to her about it is because she's not someone with an affiliate code or not someone that makes money off those things. She just really dives in a lot. And because she's doing a bunch of she's done a cookbook, she's doing another cookbook right now, and really focusing on like carnivore plus type of thing, where just getting back to basics and balancing and all that kind of stuff. I think it's really good to talk to her because she's very focused on gut health, and she's like me, she's a nerd, and she likes to learn everything she possibly can. So also stay tuned for her in the coming weeks, possibly, hopefully, fingers crossed it works out. But it was really nice to have her on in 2025, and I look forward to more calibrations. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired, you guys. It's the end of the season, can you tell? Collaborations with Robin, so look forward to that. I also talked about Diddy trial in the episode 230. Now that's where I took all of the Internet Insanity YouTube videos and clipped it from beginning to end. So you're getting beginning end of my coverage of the Diddy trial. I am no way an investigative journalist. I don't know. This is just someone that has been calling out the Hollyweird for a long time on her podcast, and it just made sense to follow it. You know what I mean? Super disappointing ending. But sounds like things are we're just gonna buckle up, because I don't think Diddy's even the tip of the iceberg here. But I digress. That's for 2026. I also had the girlies, so Darian and Brie on my episodes. So we talked about friendship, so girl friendships and what that's like in episode 212. So just our experiences going through the ages of what girlfriends have been like, what we've learned, what we want to see for the future, what we do for ourselves. That was for each other. Now being a girl group, the Be Real Collective. Again, I'm gonna shout out to that. If you guys don't know, I do have a group of girlies at the Be Real Collective, kind of equal to what Riley's doing with men. It's a group of a bunch of girls. We're just trying to help each other, share stuff, share information. Eventually it's going to grow a lot more than that. It's just very basic right now. We just did a nice little giveaway for a self-care package, so make sure to go follow that, the Be Real Collective, on Instagram or TikTok. But it's just the girlies that are on these episodes are there as well. So yeah, friendships was episode 212, and then we talked about single life versus dating life, which was episode 229. And then I also had Darian, like I said, she was on 4 times in 2025. At the end of season 8, I had her on talking about body dysmorphia as being someone that, went from not being into fitness, into bodybuilding, now into like more powerlifting and that journey there. And then we talked about drugs. It was kind of more of a fun episode, and 241 of our different addictions. I guess I should say it wasn't just drugs, but majority was for me with drugs, because that was my main addiction, but where she has her experience with that more based on alcohol for her part. And then my OG Hales came back, of course, talking with me about fentanyl, because of course that crisis has continued to just absolutely drain our country and not get much better, which, obviously has problems across the board and across the border. So Hales and I talk about that in episode 219. And then we do a Halloween episode where we do kind of like funny stories, scary stories in episode 240, if you're feeling like going back to Halloween. And then we just recently did a Christmas episode, which was just before this, 247. So this being Boxing Day, if you're still in the mood to be Christmassy, I'm not done yet. Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. I'm not done yet. Obviously, I wasn't going to, but I thought, no, it's still December. I'm still allowed. We can reset in January. And then, so 247 for that one. And then I also was able to have a breast implant illness episode with Rini, episode 234. I was very excited to bring this topic back up, because it's one of my very first advocacy topics that I've ever talked about. And I think it's super important that we continue talking about these things, because informed consent is so important, because you just hear horror stories from women that have to get explants that weren't informed, and the absolute medical bullshit that they're going through. I can't imagine how many women are out there actually suffering and they don't even fucking know, because they weren't informed. Hence the reason why I will continue on this show no matter how brain dead I feel right now. And then we also had an amazing episode with Kat from Be Easy. And if you go to the episode as well, if you go to the description, she gives a little free trial for her Face Freedom website. You can go there and sign up. And we just talk about what it's like to age gracefully, and the bullshit lies of anti-aging, and the messaging that has, and how embracing your natural self is so wonderful and authentic, and where we should be going in the world and where we hope to go. And of course, we talk on things like Botox and beauty standards and plastic surgery and all that kind of stuff. So that was an amazing episode as well. That was episode 244. So yeah, lots of really amazing episodes for this season. I'm very blessed. I cannot thank my guests enough for coming on the show ever. Anybody that's listening, for those that have listened to the last episode, maybe you didn't listen to the last Christmas episode, I have rolled over 20,000 plays on Spotify and Apple, and thank you guys so much. I cannot believe that I've done that. I cannot believe that that's even a real number. As when you do stuff like this in a creative, you get this certain imposter syndrome, and like, no one's listening, no one cares, but then the plays go, and then I'll just have a day where all of a sudden it just jumps up by 20, and I'm just blown away that 20 fucking people listened to an episode today. Like, what are you guys listening to? I'm always so curious. Like, what are you going back to? What do you want to listen to? What do you want to hear more of? So for 2026, for season 11, especially in the next 2 months, please send me an email at theberealbabe@hotmail.com, or reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook, Brandy Marie on Instagram, or the Be Real Babe podcast, and let me know what are topics. Like I said, if you want an episode, I'm always happy to have anyone on to learn more about their story, because honestly, experiences are knowledge, and knowledge is obviously super, and obviously knowledge is everything. And I think we can obviously learn as much as we can from books and from school and from our elders and all of that. But I think our peers are really important to listen to as well, and people that have just gone through similar experiences. So I'm very looking forward to 2026 to continue doing this, but I'm also equally excited for the break, excited for Christmas. So as mentioned, these last couple episodes in the last couple weeks have been a little bit more lighter, a little bit more fun, a bit more old school of the podcast instead of doing all these interviews. I will be coming out with a couple solo episodes to wrap up January. Just like I said, it gets a little bit harder at this time of year to book guests and harass them when everybody is relaxing and resetting. So you'll get a little bit more opinions from me. But that is it for the wrap up of what happened in 2025 on the podcast. And I am going to go through some things that happen in the world and pop culture if you still want to listen to that. If not, totally understand. You can take this time now. But I did go through and I found a couple articles that blends a bunch of different things in the world that happened. So I thought maybe we could go over and just review some of the crazy shit that happened in 2025, whether that's here, the States, or around the world. So, January 7th, this is where it starts. Wildfires erupt in Los Angeles area and continue for a month, causing extensive damage, especially in the Pacific Palisades and Eaton Canyon. It is one of the costliest disasters to strike the United States, with an estimated cost of 76 to 131 billion, and 30 people were killed. One thing that's super interesting about this too is Spencer Pratt has not let go. He has not stopped. I mean, I don't think I've seen as much as his reels as he has done in the last little bit, but that could just be my algorithm as well. But the fact that nothing has been done about this, no one's been held accountable. There's a bunch of people that want to try and buy land there and just kind of clear it. It's just it's kind of sad and kind of sus. Sorry, I don't mean to be a conspiracy theorist, but it just really works out when they want something, when shit like this happens, you know what I mean? And so many people lost their homes, people died, and we're just moving on. That was January 7th. We're just moving on from that. That's almost a year from now. I really hope we're not moving on from that, and I hope that they continue to find justice, especially for the 30 people that were killed and those that lost their homes. If allegedly things weren't done properly, I'm saying that because I don't know, and I don't ever want to get sued for anything. Not that I ever think I was big enough, but just to be safe. On January 20th, Donald Trump is inaugurated as the President of the United States. He is the second president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms, the oldest person at the age of 78 to win the office. Now, obviously, there is a bunch of back and forth on if people are happy with that or not, but as far as I knew, he won a lot, and so it does sound like majority, obviously, of America wanted Trump in. And I know that even though some people maybe weren't sure what to do and voted for him and they're on the fence, I know some people like some of the things that he does, sometimes you don't. I at this point don't think any politician is going to make anybody happy, and I think government just sucks, period, on a lot of the red tape and all the bullshit and the no checks and balances that have gone on through Canada and the US across the board. That's what I think the problem is everywhere. And I don't know that any side is going to make it any better personally. But there was some things in Canada that are kind of going on a really bad trajectory. And I don't know if changing party stops it, but I hope. And some things that were escalating in the States are now stopped because of Trump, but they've also escalated in other ways, right? Like, I don't live there, you guys. Don't get upset with me. I'm just saying there's some things that are really great to see stopped and addressed, and things, especially if his constituents wanted that. Here in Canada, I don't really believe necessarily that the way it's set up, it's very fair. That's just my personal opinion on how seats are, because the East Coast seems to always dictate what goes on, and that just doesn't reflect the West Coast. Anyways, that's for another day. So, yeah, so President Donald Trump for his second one at the age of 78. So the 23rd of January, Thailand became the first South Asian country to legalize same-sex marriage. I thought that was super interesting. Go Thailand, go. And the first one. So I wonder if that's like, if Thailand is the leader. Are they the trendsetter? Are the other Asian countries going to follow, do we think? Or what? I have absolutely no idea. But I just hear a lot of the rhetoric a lot of the times is a lot of countries over there aren't necessarily very pro that due to religion. So I'd be curious if if is Thailand the trendsetter or are they the only one? January 29th, during celebrations for the Hindu festival Kumbh Mela in Prayagraj, Uttar Pradesh. I'm so sorry, you guys. It's very clear that I'm super fucking white. I apologize. That is in India, from my understanding. At least 30 people are killed during a stampede. Again, why does this shit always have to happen during fucking festivals? It just, and times of holidays. I'm so sorry. Rest in peace to everyone. That is a huge, again, another 30 killings. It's the same thing that happened in the fire. January was not a good month at all. It seems like I can't really, to be honest with you guys, January, February to me are like the least fun months. I don't know. I'm glad we went for a trip in November, but parts of me are like, I kind of wish we waited for February. I know that's the best time to travel down there, but it's just like the worst months. Like Christmas is so great, New Year's, and then it just drops. Because if you're in Canada, it's still cold, at least until March. It start to maybe be spring, April. It's getting a little bit nicer, but it's dirty on the ground, especially in northern Alberta. And then May, definitely in BC, we're looking at nicer weather. We can probably get up to the 20s. And then Alberta, maybe we'll see some snow. We don't know. And then June, we're good. But then sometimes it's shit. Anyways, you guys. So January, just worst month. And I don't really see much happiness that happened there. So moving on to February, Beyonce wins 3 Grammys, including her first ever Album of the Year award to extend her record total to 35. She also makes history as the first Black woman to win a Grammy for the Best Country Album for Cowboy Carter. So I know for myself, I don't really honestly, guys, actually, I was going through this and reading some of the things in pop culture. I could care fucking less. And I don't mean that about Beyonce. I've never loved Beyonce just because the whole that she left the other girls and she went famous, and then the whole JC thing, and I thought that was super controlling, and I didn't love that, and I didn't always think she was a girl's girl. But I don't really listen to her music, nor do I really care about who wins country awards. But I know a lot of people are very upset about this. It was a very controversial thing I was noticing in the comment section, and it sounded like a lot of people said that Jay-Z allegedly pays for these wins. So who knows? Are these music things really for real? Are they rigged? I don't know, because I honestly don't fucking pay attention anymore. I will listen to Hollywood stuff a little bit on the outside, kind of see what's going on, but I don't watch shows or award shows anymore. And that's no shade to anybody. I just don't have time. Real life is so much more interesting, you guys. We don't need to be watching fiction. Real life is fucking insane. So that's where my nose is most of the time. But go Beyonce, go, I guess, if you're fans of her. Again, I don't pay attention, so I don't know if this is right or wrong or the other, because I just listen to music and it makes me happy and I jam to it. February 4th, the United States begins imposing an additional 10% tariffs on Chinese goods, launching a trade war between the two countries. The U.S. government will later increase tariffs on other countries, including Canada. And again, another big, soon as Trump got in, now a lot of people said that they knew he was going to put tariffs on. A lot of people didn't know. Some people agree, some people don't. Some things worked, some things didn't. I know Canada is definitely suffering from that. That's our own fucking fault. I do not blame Donald Trump for that whatsoever. But that did start the quote unquote trade war that a lot of people are using in their political speeches. February 9th, the Philadelphia Eagles defeat the Kansas City Chiefs 40-22 to win the Super Bowl. That's not important to me, but I thought I'd throw it in there because I know that's important to some people. I think the only thing I've ever heard about this with the Chiefs is, and I'm not a Taylor Swift fan in the slightest, but I think that might be where her man is on his team. I think that might be the only thing I've ever heard, but that's just me. I'm not a sports person. So going on to March, at the 97th Academy Awards ceremony, Anora wins 5 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Actress and Director. Other notable winners include Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress, and Best Supporting Actor. And to be honest with you guys, I don't know any of these people. Adrian Brody, Zoe Saldana, Kieran Culkin, and Mikey Madison. No idea. I've never seen the movie. I am so sorry. This is just kind of where I'm at, where, to be honest, if you would have talked to me 10, 15 years ago, I would have been dialed into all of these. I would have watched all of them. All the award shows, music, acting. I would have been watching all of the Big Brothers, the reality shows. I've been tuned in to Vampire Diaries, obsessed with Vampire Diaries, to the point I was watching Comic-Con shit on YouTube. I very much used to be in that. I'm not shading that. I just, obviously my priorities has changed. So I don't know any of this, but I just thought it was worth mentioning because that's one movie getting 5 Oscars. That seems like a pretty big fucking deal. March 2nd, Firefly Aerospace Blue Ghost makes a successful soft landing on the moon, becoming the first commercial lunar lander to accomplish the feat. This one's probably going to get juicy for people that don't believe in the moon landing. They're probably like, what is this? I thought we weren't going back to the moon. Now we're saying we're going back to the moon, but this is not people, I don't believe. It's I don't know what a blue ghost is, but a soft landing on the moon. So that'll be interesting. So hopefully we'll see more in 2026 about moon stuff. How do we feel about moon stuff? How do people feel about moon stuff outside the Katy Perry thing? Like, how do people feeling about this? Like, I know there's a bunch of people that think it's real and it's not. I don't know. I'm in the middle of everything. I could believe it could happen. I don't know. So I'm just like, I can't say for certain on anything, but what do you guys think about it? And do you think us going there and fucking with it is a good idea? In March, the absolute worst thing happened to Canada. Just kidding. Just kidding. Don't put me in jail. This is sarcasm. Mark Carney of the Liberal Party is sworn in as Prime Minister of Canada. He previously was the first non-British person to head the Bank of England from 2013 to 2020. So as those know, Justin Trudeau stepped down and then he kind of like weaseled his way out. And then Mark Carney put himself in, even though he really didn't. It's not that he didn't. It was kind of like a Kamala thing. That's how I would relate it. Like he was voted in, but he wasn't really voted in. It feels like he was just kind of placed there. It would be interesting. There was other candidates that I was personally interested in on the Liberal Party that maybe perhaps persuade my vote from Pierre. I doubt it, but they definitely made me look like Ruby. But they definitely. Trudeau is it's the same thing. It's just the same thing. He's just older with gray hair. Like to me, in my personal opinion. So obviously March 14th was not my favorite, but I also am just so used to it here. And I don't necessarily know that if we switch to Pierre and Conservatives that things will change in Canada. I don't know. I'm in the middle of being a doomsdayer and I don't give a fuck because we're in a simulation. So it doesn't matter. That's kind of where I'm at. I could believe anything. I could believe that, oh my gosh, yes, I would love to believe if the Conservatives got in and Pierre got in, maybe he could stop some things, but he might not be able to do as much as we want him to. You know what I mean? Like it's just so all over the place. I have hard having faith, but I also don't want to live in doomsday. You know what I mean? So we're here for the podcast and we out and we in just normal life. So March 15th, the United States deports Kilmore Abrego Garcia, a Salvadorian immigrant who had entered the country without authorization in 2011, but received protection under federal law that prevented his removal. His wrongful deportation sparked a legal battle, and he is eventually brought back into the United States. I know that was super controversial at the time. Don't know enough about immigration in the States to know, but I do know that this was a very big controversial back and forth. If you have your thoughts and opinions, please comment them. If you have anything to say, let me know more. I would love to learn more. March 18th, American astronauts Sunita Williams and Barry Wilmore returned to Earth after being in space for 286 days. Although they were scheduled to only stay for about a week at the International Space Station, their return was delayed after the Starliner spacecraft suffered mechanical issues. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was thanks to Elon that they got back. Don't quote me on that, but not quite the Katy Perry situation. But again, a lot of people were comparing the two because a lot of people didn't believe the Katy Perry situation in the astronaut. But anyways, that's for you guys to decide. March 21st, I'm going to fuck this name up and I am so sorry. Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah is sworn in as president of Namibia, becoming the first woman to hold the post. We're just seeing ladies dominate around the world. I think that's amazing. Magnitude 7.7 earthquake strikes Myanmar in Burma, that was on March 28th, causing more than 36,000 deaths and thousands of injuries. Holy fuck. That's insane. 7.7 earthquake in Burma, causing more than 3,600 deaths and thousands of injuries. March 28th. Oh my gosh. It's just crazy to me. Sometimes we just really don't hear this. Like, I know our news is blocked, but like, I don't know, maybe I'm not maybe I'm too disconnected, but like, I usually try to read world news. It's just crazy all the shit that happens that you don't hear about. So moving on to April, Pope Francis dies at age 88. And then they just have a list of other kind of famous people's death in the year include, very unfortunately, Ozzy Osbourne, July 22nd. Giorgio Armani, September 4th, Robert Redford, September 16th, Jane Goodall, October 1st, Diane Keaton, October 11th, Dharmendra, November 24th, and Rob Rayner, December 14th, which I just talked about on the YouTube channel this last week. So if you want to learn more about Rob Reiner's murder and his wife, head on over there. It's obviously a developing case, but yeah, so headed on to May. May 7th, India launches a series of missile strikes on multiple bases in Pakistan, leading to a sharp escalation with exchanges from both countries. The conflict is triggered by an attack on April 22nd, in which gunmen opened fire on tourists near the resort town of Pahalgam. Jammu and Kashmir, India, killing 26 people before India's military response. The two countries had suspended bilateral agreements such as the Indus Water Treaty and the Simla Agreement. A ceasefire is called on May 10th. Jesus. I get it. I don't get it, but I get it. Like, it's just always so sad that things have to escalate to war. And I know as a woman, as someone, I just wish we could fix everything with feelings and words and talking and cannabis. And I know that's not realistic. I'm aware of it. But, like, wouldn't it be so much fucking nicer if it was? That's all I'm saying. May 8th, Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost is elected Pope and takes the name of Leo 14. He is the first American pope in the history of the Roman Catholic Church. Not even going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. Not even going to go into the Pope and the Roman Catholic Church. You believe what you want to believe in that. And that is interesting. I will say that is interesting. May 9th, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration approves the first in-home cervical cancer test. I am pretty sure here in Canada, we also got the swabs at home. Very interesting. I struggle because of all the things that have come out about PCR tests and the swab test when it comes to those kind of things in COVID. Do not call me a conspiracy theorist, okay? We've talked about those things in the past. We called it out at the time, and now it is proven that it's not, even though it proved at the time, but no one wanted to listen. Let's carry on to June. So Air India Flight 171 crashes in Ahmedabad, Gujarat, India, shortly after takeoff. Of the 242 passengers and crew on board, only one person survives. The reported number of fatalities on the ground varies, with the figures ranging between 19 and 33. I do remember when this happened. I remember it circulating. I remember pictures of the families before that, sent it to their families saying, hope we have a good flight and safety and all that. And I absolutely fucking hate it. And it just makes me absolutely terrified, even though I'm trying not to be terrified. But there's been lots of plane crashes this year, you guys. And every time I hyperventilate. So prayers going out to all the families of all the tragedies that I've talked about that's happened in the world today. And I really do hope that we can circulate these things more, because I don't think that prayer hurts, and positive thoughts to the families and just knowing that support is out there across the world. So hopefully more in 2026, more international news gets flown through in Canada so I can actually see more of it. June 14th, demonstrations against U.S. President Donald Trump, known as the No Kings protest, are held across the United States and other countries, drawing more than 5 million participants. A second day of rallies is held on October 18th with almost 7 million attendees. Obviously, I'm not trying to be this way, but this article is obviously very anti-Donald Trump bias. They do talk a lot about that. There are other things that came out as well. Sorry, guys, it is the holidays and year end for me, so didn't have crazy amount of time to dive deeper in to counter some of these things. Just picked the best, but it's very clear that these writers are not fans of Donald Trump, and I don't give a fuck what you guys think, whether you like him or not. I don't really care. I know I just want a different government for Canada, and I've just seen some positive and I've seen some negative, as per literally everything. June 17th, the Florida Panthers win their second consecutive Stanley Cup title after beating the Edmonton Oilers in a 6-game series. Now, obviously, this hurts my heart as a Canadian, and I obviously am from the island, so growing up, I would be for the Vancouver Canucks, but unfortunately, they never get far in these things, and by marriage, I obviously cheer for Toronto Maple Leafs, but unfortunately, as mentioned in previous episodes, we don't always get crazy far there. But obviously then I will go for the Canadian team. So obviously I was cheering for Edmonton Oilers, and sadly we didn't make it, but great series, great games. I love watching playoff sports. It's the only time I really care about sports, is either live or Olympic playoff, any of that. That's when I think sports are really fun. So I do enjoy that. June 22nd, during the Israel-Iran conflict, the U.S. military strikes Iranian nuclear sites with the bunker buster bombs. The extent of the damage is debated, and Israel and Iran agreed to a ceasefire 2 days later. Again, just fucking hating that we always just have to be like response to like bombs. Like, how about like glitter bombs? Like, not glitter bombs, because I know glitter has thought, but like glitter bombs, you know? Or like those penis bombs, you know what I mean? With the glitter things, with the funny things. Like, how about that when you're pissed off? Let's start there. And if you don't get answered, then maybe we can consider the dangerous bombs. Just a thought. But if this is a good bomb to stop more bombier bombs, then I kind of get it. But not my forte. I am not a war or politic or American channel. June 26th, Anna Wintour, one of the most powerful figures in fashion, announces that she is stepping down as editor-in-chief of American Vogue after some 37 years in the post. However, she will continue to serve as the magazine global editorial director. Now, I'm not gonna lie, at the time I was like, is there a scandal going on? I haven't personally heard. If you have, please comment, but I remember hearing this at the time and going, usually when people step down, it's for some reason. Now, it could be health things, it could be just to be with family. Of course, there's definitely positive reasons, but of course, just because we're bred this way and that's who I am, I'm like, was there drama? Tell me the drama. July 1st, the U.S. Agency for International Development is shuttered. Okay, I don't give a fuck about this. Okay, so July 1st, members of the South Korean K-pop band BTS reunite after they complete mandatory military service. The group, to mark the end of the 3-year hiatus, the group announces a world tour and new album scheduled for 2026. I had no idea they had to do that. That's so crazy. I have heard of places, I believe Israel, you are mandated to go in the military. I don't know the states. I think you sign up unless they enlist you and force you to. Again, I'm not, please let me know in the comments. I'm not entirely sure. I know in Canada it's voluntary, and then they have like the backup people that are old military people, and then they have people that are volunteers that I talked about on YouTube. And if you want to go back to that, they're talking about just having regular public servants learn how to go to war, but another topic for another time. So that's crazy, and I know a lot of people really love K-pop, so I'm sure that's very exciting news for people that are into that music. The Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, a telescope funded by NASA, discovers Comet 31 Atlas, an interstellar object that is possibly the oldest known comet. That's just crazy. And again, being a conspiracy theorist, obviously you hear all these different things, and we've talked in length about different conspiracies around this, but I always think it's cool when people, get real into science, and I love finding old historical stuff. So I can imagine if you're into space and historical stuff, this is very exciting for you. July 2nd, the 14th Dalai Lama, the exiled spiritual leader of Tibet, announces that he will reincarnate, thus confirming there will be a 15th Dalai Lama. He also grants his own institutional trust sole authority for identifying his successor. The move comes at a time when there is a possibility of Chinese oversight of the Dalai Lama selection. Interesting. I didn't know that. That's super interesting. I want to kind of dive into that a little bit more. July 4th to 7th, extreme rainfall brings deadly flash floods in central Texas, especially in the Guadalupe River and its surrounding tributaries. At least 135 people were killed, including 27 campers and staff camp at Mystique, a girls' summer camp. Estimated cost of the disaster ranged from 18 to 22 billion. I absolutely remember when this happened. It was absolutely fucking devastated. I believe it was a Christian, little Christian all girls camp, and unfortunately it sounded like maybe floods had happened there in the past, but never this bad, and it did not end well. I believe there were survivors, but not many, obviously, with 27 campers and staff, including girls, obviously didn't make it through, and then 135 also. And I get curious if anything's been done. I know that's a couple months after Trump came in, so I don't know if there was better service when it came to that. If from his federal change, let me know in the comments if that did help, if you feel like they helped those individuals faster, or was it the same when the Biden was in to now. July 16th, during a Coldplay concert in Foxborough, Massachusetts, a couple is caught on the kiss cam. After spotting themselves on screen, the man and woman hid from the cameras, prompting Chris Martin, the band's lead singer, to say from stage, either they're having an affair or they're very shy. I'm not quite sure what to do. The couple who are co-workers and executives at a tech company later resigned from their jobs. I do absolutely everybody. I feel like you would be in a completely off social media or off your phone if you didn't know that happened. It sparked a lot of memes and obviously jokes in future thing, but that is shitty. It's shitty. Like I've said many times before, just don't cheat on your spouses. Just be honest with them, end it with them, work it out with them, whatever it is. Just don't do shit like this. And like in fucking public, like come on, you're just, at some point some people are just ridiculous. Oh, and then this controversy. July 23rd, American Eagle releases a controversial ad campaign titled Sydney Sweeney Has Great Genes. In one of the video spots, the denim-clad actress discusses the heritability of traits and genetics. The campaign sparks intense debate, with some arguing that it promotes eugenics and Western beauty standards, while others believe it is simply a play on words. And I'm sorry, and again, I'm probably going to be told that I'm racist for believing this, but I'm on the camp of it was just a play on words. And the more power you put to words and ideologies like that, and make it real, and say it exists, it will exist. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean that work doesn't, two truths can exist at the same time. Work could still need to be done on people that are racist. At the same time, we could have come very far, and things like jokes or just play on words shouldn't be something that we should get so offended about, because it's just not healthy, right? It's just not healthy. We can still address the extremes, that the bad people, the people are truly racist, but if you call everything that, it actually diminishes and takes away from the focus of where the work actually needs to be done. And jokes and play on words, it's going to be what everyone's lens is. Right now, I understand there's privilege and there's bias, absolutely, but there's got to be a level, you know what I mean? August 7th, OpenAI releases ChatGPT 5, which is described as a major advance in reasoning and autonomy. This is just one of the numerous news stories about AI which continue to have growing impact on everyday life, and that terrifies me. I'm just always going to be completely honest with you guys. I'm not a huge fan. I use it very, 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 very rarely. Anything that's artistic, absolutely not. But if I'm researching how to do stuff, like I don't even know if I have a choice because AI, Google just does that now. But once in a while, and Grant is definitely more of a fan. I know a lot of people that are fans of it, but I don't really necessarily need it. So why add into it? I absolutely ain't fucking uploading any of my goddamn pictures to them. And I think y'all are crazy for doing that shit, especially when we don't know. Like, do you want deep fakes porns of you out there? And maybe you can think I'm crazy, but that is so easy to do with just photos on the internet and from your Facebook and Instagram, and then y'all are just making it easy by uploading their photos. That is just my personal take it or leave it. August 11th, US Donald Trump orders the deployment of the National Guard to Washington, D.C., claiming that the move would rescue the nation's capital from crime. The move is controversial, and D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, who notes the crime is down compared to previous years, opposes the deployment. Don't know enough about that, but I would say crime is absolutely fucking insane in Canada, and I think it's absolutely insane that we called the Emergencies Act and we had so many troops and boots on the ground and all these different military people for the fucking freedom convoy and protest, but we ain't doing shit about all the crime and everything that's happening like in downtown cores of small businesses. None of that, right? Just catch and release, and it just blows my mind. I do not give a fuck about this, but it is mentioned. It is big in pop culture. Pop sensation Taylor Swift and NFL star Travis Kelce announced their engagement on Instagram. The post photographs of a proposal with the note, your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married. And again, very happy for people that are fans of Taylor Swift. However, I would question if you're more excited about her engagement than your own, only because I just think it's super unhealthy to have parasocial relationships like that. That's just my personal opinion. Take it or leave it. I used to have a really toxic one, so that's why I speak on that. And it's not just a shade to Taylor Swift. It's just Swifties have a more cult-like mentality group than anybody. You guys have to admit that. September 2nd, the U.S. military carries out a first series of lethal strikes on a small civilian boats operating in or near Venezuelan waters. The U.S. government justifies the attacks by saying that the targeted vessels are being used for drug smuggling and terrorism. Again, I'm not a fan of killing. I'm also not a fan of drugs and drug wars and all that kind of stuff. And again, don't know enough to comment, so I'm not going to. But again, I just wish that we could do other things. I understand that that's a very silly way to come about it, and people will disagree with me. I just hate war. I really hate it. And these are types, I think, kind of like just, it could start a war, it sounds like, right? Just like, again, drug dealers are awful. I just wish we could put people in prison away instead of killing them. That's just my personal take. September 7th, Carlos Actis, who died at age 15 from leukemia, is canonized by Pope Leo XIV, widely venerated as the first millennial saint. He is also known as the patron saint of the internet for his interest in using digital communication to teach others. Oh, I'm so sorry that you died of that, Carlo, at 15. That's so fucking young. September 8th, the most dramatic of the Gen Z protests begin in Nepal as thousands of students protest the government's sweeping social media ban, an apparent attempt to silence dissent. The uprising creates a political crisis and eventually leads to the ousting of the country's prime minister. That is crazy. I think I've heard about this. I definitely heard about this and still not even sure I can wrap my head around all the information, real or not, when it comes to this topic. September 10th, conservative activist Charlie Kirk is fatally shot while speaking at an outdoor event on the campus of Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. The assassination comes amid other acts of political violence in the United States. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. I'm so sorry for your family. I'm so sorry for your friends that were close to you, anybody within your organization. I'm not really going to comment on all this stuff that's going around on social media. I think there's enough of that going around. I'm just going to say prayers to them. And that was the most traumatic fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And it really displayed some very interesting and upsetting behaviors from some people in my life, not in my life. And thank you for showing your true colors. And again, rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. And looking forward to hearing the actual truth of what's going on and what actually happens and all that kind of stuff in 2026. September 23rd, after a brief suspension, the late night talk show Jimmy Kimmel Live returns to the air. 6 days earlier, ABC had announced that it was indefinitely taking the show off the airwaves, following the comments of host Jimmy Kimmel made regarding the suspect in the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. There was a lot of controversy on that, obviously, because it's like free speech, but then he's in a position of, news and a high and journalist. So do we keep that unbiased? But we know Jimmy Kimmel's not. We know how he feels. He constantly hates Trump, whatever. Again, that's his opinion. Don't watch him if you don't like it. Watch it if you do like it. But I also heard that really had nothing to do with it, that he's also just fallen off and that people don't really like listening to him anymore. I don't know those things, but interesting back and forth. So in October, musician and entrepreneur Sean Combs is sentenced to 50 months in prison. Lame. Earlier in the year, he had been convicted on 2 charges of transportation to engage in prostitution for drug-fueled sex parties known as freak-offs. I'm not going to go over any of that because I have several episodes on Internet Insanity on YouTube, or episode, I believe it was 230, around there for the Diddy trial of all those YouTube episodes. October 10th, a ceasefire goes into effect in Israel-Hamas war. The conflict began some 2 years ago when Hamas launched an assault on Israel from the Gaza Strip, killing more than 1,000 people and taking several hundred hostages. Israel subsequently declared war, and fighting to lead to widespread destruction through the Gaza Strip and deaths of tens of thousands of Gazans. And I believe that things are still happening. Again, I don't necessarily keep up on this stuff because there's so much misinformation, and I'm not going to even say whatever I think I know because someone in the comment section is going to tell me I'm wrong. I definitely feel like there are more reputable and knowledgeable people to have opinions on that war is shit. Stop it. That's where I'm at. Across all boards. October 19th, a team of thieves break into the Louvre, which I talked about on YouTube in detail, and steal 9 pieces of the 19th century jewelry. The heist, which involves a truck-mounted electric ladder, power tools, motorbikes, and took less than 10 minutes. Within weeks, French authorities apprehended and charged numerous suspects, but did not recover the jewels. So October 21st, Sanae Takachai becomes Japan's first female prime minister. A hardline conservative, she is the head of the Liberal Democratic Party. That's confusing. Anyways, congratulations. I'm so sorry that I butchered your name. October 23rd, an NBA betting and gambling scandal makes headlines following the indictment of Chauncey Billups, head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, and Terry Rozier, a guard for the Miami Heat. Billups is alleged to have participated in illegal poker games that were facilitated by mafia crime families, and Rozier is accused of being involved in illegal sports betting. Gambling is so dangerous, you guys. Okay, we're almost done here. I can't believe it. Going almost on an hour. I did not expect that. 2025 was intense. November 4th, Typhoon Kalamagi makes landfall in the Philippines, and over the next several days, a powerful tropical cyclone strikes Vietnam and Thailand. More than 200 people are killed, with the majority of deaths occurring in the Philippines. Again, never heard a fucking thing about this. I am so sorry, everyone that lost everything that's going on. I mean, that's over almost 2 months now. I hope people are finding healing and things are starting to rebuild. I'm so sorry. There's been so many fucking natural disasters. November 10th, a powerful car blast near the Red Fort in Old Delhi in India kills more than 10 people, injures 20 others, and causes severe damages in surrounding infrastructure. Well, if this was a criminal, I hope those people are held accountable. I'm so sorry again to the 10 people that died. Jeez, a lot of fucking bad things are happening in India this year. I'm so sorry. And if it's a criminal, I hope someone is held accountable. And again, that rebuilding and healing is happening there. November 12th, the longest government shutdown in U.S. history ends after 43 days. Canada took like 3 months off. You're fine. The deal to reopen and fund the government includes several provisions, including a Senate vote on healthcare tax credits in the Affordable Care Act, full back pay for the furloughed workers, and the funding of some government entities such as the Department of Veteran Affairs through September 2026. November 20th, U.S. President Donald Trump signs legislation ordering the release of the so-called Epstein files, thousands of pages of documents related to the criminal investigations into sex trafficking by financier and friend to the rich and famous, powerful Jeffrey Epstein. Questions concerning the contents of the file have dominated U.S. politics and roiled the second Trump administration. Also, a leak happened on the website. The feds accidentally released a bunch of stuff. It's now gone, but a lot of people, I would go listen to CoffeeZilla. He breaks a bunch of stuff down about this. Go listen to that. It's pretty fucked up stuff over there. A lot of that's been retracted, but it'll be interesting because I thought they said there was no co-conspirators, and allegedly there was potentially 10, and all their names are redacted, and a lot of stuff is redacted as usual, but some of the stuff wasn't. So definitely go over there. November 23rd, Hailey Gubi in Ethiopia erupts. It is the volcano's first documented eruption in about 12,000 years. though unrecorded eruptions may have occurred during that time. That's insane. Hopefully everyone's okay. It didn't report that anyone got hurt, so I'm assuming it didn't hurt anybody, but you just never know. A fire breaks out in an apartment complex in Hong Kong, burns for more than 40 hours. The blaze, believed to have been caused by substandard construction materials, kills more than 150 people. Again, prayers for that family, for those families. From my understanding, this was more of a senior home, so I believe it was a lot of seniors as well. And it sounds like potentially it was covered in a bunch of bamboo, so it did not fare well when stop it being prevented from going all the way up, from my understanding. But please go research all these topics on your own. These are just high level from what I remember. December 10th, a social media ban for those younger than 16 goes into effect in Australia. The law focuses on 10 sites, including YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. You definitely need to put Snapchat on there if it's not. And I don't disagree with this. Kids are too young. Keep them all away from the brain rot. Like, give them other hopes and dreams. Give them boredom so they can be imaginative. And then December 14th, the father and son opened fire at a Hanukkah celebration in Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia, killing 15 people and injuring more than 40. The gunman, one of whom was fatally shot by police, was said to be motivated by Islamic State ideology. The Bondi Beach shooting is the deadliest terrorist attack in the country's history. And again, RIP to everyone. It sounded like there was a lot of heroes, some that lived, some that didn't, that tried to stop this. It's so sad, again, the amount of hate and why we have to do everything with violence is beyond me. That's just not the answer. I understand things can be frustrating and things don't move as you wish and people don't do always things what you want, but murdering and killing people is just absolutely not the way. I don't even know why I have to fucking say that. That should just be point blank, period. But anyways, you guys, that was just up to the first couple weeks of December. So obviously there's still a couple weeks left. It is Boxing Day as you guys are listening to this. It was Christmas yesterday. I hope you guys had an unreal Christmas. If you celebrate an unreal Hanukkah, if you celebrate Hanukkah, if you don't celebrate any of those things, I hope you're enjoying the end of the year. If you don't believe in time, I hope that you're just having a good time floating on this rock, doing whatever and just observing. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever, like, hang loose, whatever, man, whatever works for you. I understand. But I'm Buddy the Elf, and I'm going to imagine this is before Christmas. I'm recording that. We're going to have an amazing Christmas. I'm going to be super excited about it. And then I will come back with a solo episode or potential guest for the first one. We'll see how it lays out. But thank you guys again so much. 2025 was an incredible year. I cannot wait for 2026. We are going to go into season 11, and I'm just going to go where the wind takes me. I don't know if it's going to be 15 seasons, 20 seasons. We'll see, but we made it over the 10. We made it over the 20,000. Thank you guys so fucking much for that. Please keep listening. Please give me feedback. Please let me know if you want to be a guest, who you want to hear, topics that you want me to deep dive in. Don't forget to go on YouTube and follow me over there at the Be Real Babe Show. There is going to be some changes for the coming season with that, but essentially it's going to be pretty much the same, just maybe a little less about Canada and a little bit more about just internet insanity and drama content and things like that. But I will keep you guys posted. Again, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the end of 2025. Happy fucking New Year. If this is the last time last time you're going to be hearing from me, if you're not on the YouTube channels, and I will come back on January 2nd. Thank you guys again so much. I cannot say that enough. I appreciate you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and until the next episode, guys, bye. Thank you guys so much for listening. I truly appreciate the support. If you like this episode and you want to hear more, please follow the Be Real Babe podcast on Spotify, Apple, and Rumble. You can also find me at the Be Real Babe podcast on TikTok and Instagram. Until next time, guys, bye!